It doesn't necessarily pay the bills, so it's not that kind of a work, but I take it very seriously, and I spend most of my waking time and probably some of my sleeping time thinking about it, so it's slightly obsessional in a way. I practice sensitised walking, and out of it come various types of artwork, and concentrating on painting really at the moment. There's a sort of rebellion about knowing all these little fragments of places and wanting to know the whole picture and not by car. I don't think you can really know a place unless you've walked through it at walking speed. I think that's the speed we're meant to engage with places. I'm doing a series of walks that are between here in Plymouth, particularly between my house and my parents' house where I was born. Really after my dad had a stroke. So it's kind of tied up with him and having dementia and memory and me walking backwards or forwards to where I was born. It's partially a response to change and changing. I suppose I have a certain amount of grief both about my dad and about how the landscape's being developed everywhere. We just seem to be cutting up the landscape so much that you can't flow anywhere. You've got to walk in lefts or rights. You can't it's becoming harder and harder to walk directionally. If I do go out walking, there's no really horrible day. It's fun out there walking. Through walking on your feet, through moving your body, the blood's pumping around, your brain is oxygenated, you become hyper aware. And particularly if you're walking somewhere that you've never walked before, then I suppose it's like the old nomadic instincts come out. You become really present. I think the feet are like the brain in a way. When I'm here, I'm referring it to a walk, but I'm also referring to how that walk joins up with all the other walks I'm doing. And it's a kind of constant push and pull that's going on with covering things up and uncovering them. But I do walk away from the painting quite a lot. I have to do that to stand back and see what I've done. I am engaged somewhere in trying to subvert the status quo. It's a form of communication. If I was walking 500 years ago, it would be animals and trees and stuff like that. Now, there's an awful lot of signs and symbols being thrown at you and labels. Things are literally labelled. So you go into these spaces, which there are fewer and fewer of actually as things get more and more developed. Spaces where things are falling apart and they're not being remade, where things are mushing into other things. Using that as a starting point. We have words for things. In actual fact, it's all joined up stuff. I don't think they actually really, they scratch the surface, but here not so much. I think they literally just scratch the paint off so the water was able to get in and cause almost like a photographic reaction. And you see here, when I'm walking, I'm really interested in framing the unobvious. I try to address the graffiti, but they've literally just done a little square. I think my painting tries to get to the root of that, the fact that if you leave a car it will rot into the earth. All that sort of material effect that's happening. the most interesting marks come out of frustration. I feel, you know, with this point of connection with the feet, I become like an agency, or I become like a mouthpiece for the place that I'm in. I'm seeing the world as alive, and a lot of this stuff that's around me doesn't have a way of articulating itself. So that's kind of like my job. It's like being in the water, and you feel the flows and the tugs and the pulls, and you can resist them or not. You can go with them. You can get sort of pulled on a current off somewhere.
Yeah, I have. I could take us on a little detour, actually.
And it's often the twists and turns that are the most engaging. It makes you feel like you're really, really out there in the world, being part of it rather than thinking about it. To me, it's about the old-fashioned way of like apprenticeship, which is putting the time in to learn your craft. And I've been doing stuff that is either been leading up to this point or has been directly related to it for years now. Yeah, I'm an expert in that way. There's aptitude, but I think the more you put into something, the more you get out and the better you get. I've got more confident with it now. I trust the method. I trust that if I have operated with integrity, it will be in there. The effect will be translated. Yeah, I am committed to it. There's no doubt about that. I've proved that to myself, if no one else.